Okay, good morning. We'll begin with supposed to do the Tefilla section, but I want to start Dafka with something that came up this last Shabbat on the Parsha, going back to our original Parsha discussion, but just something very quick, but it has to do with ladies and women, so I thought it would be interesting to bring this up. I noticed as reading the Parsha, something that I'd never noticed before. I don't know why. Sometimes new things come up, even though we read them year after year after year after year, the exact same laning, the exact same Parsha. Still we come with new things. We discussed at the table. We also had my brother-in-law for Shabbos, and he's a rabbi himself, teaches in Haramor and other yeshivot. It also was a new topic of discussion. It comes up very distinctly, and then it became a much wider question, much wider issue of discussion, when Hashem changes Avram's name from Avram to Avraham. So it says, "V'em Elokim el Avram, lo yikare shimcha od Avram ki im Avraham yeh shemecha. Gets blessed due to his new name. He'll have a child, and then he'll have many offsprings and descendants and kings coming from him. So that's simple. Hashem changes Avram's name and speaks to him and tells him your name will no longer be Avram, rather Avraham. By Sarah, it says like this: "Vayomer Elokim el Avraham, Sarai ishtecha, lo tikra et shma Sarai, ki Sarah shema." And also, "V'nati lecha mimena ben," all that. So it suddenly occurred to me, how come by Sarai, Hashem doesn't speak to her directly and tells her, "Sarai, your name will no longer be Sarai; it's going to be Sarah." Why did Hashem turn to Avram and say, "You stop calling her Sarai. Her name from now on will be Sarah"? Obviously, if you change her name, then everyone else will change her name. But we're not talking about so much the message, the personal message to Avram that you will no longer be calling her Sarai. You call her Sarah. Instead of saying your name will no longer be Sarai, rather Sarah. But I'm talking about the fact that Hashem doesn't speak to her directly. Now we know she was a greater prophet. She's greater in prophecy than Avram. You see this in this week's Parsha, where it says, Yeah, you like that pasuk, huh? Yeah, Sarah Stark. So Rashi says there, Mikan shigdola Sarah bin Viut, Avraham. She was on a higher level of prophecy than Avram. So how come Hashem doesn't speak to her direct? He's such a great prophet. Now, this question then arose to a much larger scale question and discussion. It suddenly occurred to me, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, I have to check this from a person who has greater knowledge than me in Tanakh. Maybe the women here who have the Tanakh class once a week, maybe they'll remember something about this. Is there anywhere in the entire Tanakh that Hashem speaks directly to a woman? The Malach speaks to Manoach. The Malach speaks to Hagar 3 times. Rashi says he sent 3 angels, but that's the Malach. An angel, yes. Do we find direct conversation between Hashem and a woman in the entire Tanakh? So as we discussed this, we came up with two examples that yes, Hashem did speak to women. One example is Chava, because he turns to Chava and says, "How come? Did you feed Adam with the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge?" He speaks to her directly, and when he punishes her, it's also Ve'ela isha amar arba beitz vonech ve'ronech beitz divanim, meaning he speaks to her directly and punishes her what she had done. So Chava was spoken to directly by Hashem. And actually by Sarah, in this week's Parsha, when she doesn't admit to the fact that she murked and disbelieved the fact that she will be having a child, and she laughed about it, she made fun of it, but Sarah lemor lo tzahakti ki area, vayomer lo, with an aleph, no, hitzachakt. Who says that to her? Who says, don't lie, you did laugh about it? So we checked in the commentaries there, the Hamek Davar, Natziv, says like this: the pshat of the psukim is Avram, like Tova just said, because it says, "Vayomer Elokim el Abraham, lama zeh tzachaka Sarah lemor, ha'af umna melel bani zakanti, ha'yipaleh me'Hashem davar, lamoed Hashem elach g'etcha v'Sarah ven." So Hashem is speaking to Avram to rebuke Sarah for disbelieving in the fact that she will be having a son, bearing a son. And she then, "V'teches Sarah lemor lo tzachakti, vayomer lo ki tzachak." So from the context of this pasuk, it seems like Avram was conversing with Sarah due to what Hashem had told him, that Sarah did make fun of it, did disbelieved. And then she went and said, no, I didn't. And he says to her, no, you did. So it seems like a conversation between Avram and Sarah. But then the Natziv says, in Chazal, in the Bereshis Rabbah, it says not so. It says, Hashem said, Vayomer lo ki tzachak. Hashem said that to her. So you did laugh. You did make fun of it. So here we see again Hashem speaking to her directly. But then I noticed, so look what's going on. The only situations where Hashem speaks to a woman, if it's by Chava or by Sarah, according to the Natziv, is only negative. It's only to rebuke, only to punish, only to say something against her. But there's no positive, as far as I can recall. We also opened Shoftim, Prakim Daled, hey, by Dvorah. Dvorah Neviah, Dvorah the prophet, she was a shofetet. And again, we're not taking away from them being prophets. Definitely, there were 7 prophets, women prophets, female prophets in Israel. That's how the Gemara Megillah Daf Yudalet says 48 male prophets and 7 female prophets stood up for the Jewish people in the course of history. So definitely they were prophets, but they received their message, their prophecies, their vision through dreams, through Ruach HaKodesh from inside. But the direct conversation with Hashem, you don't find. Even by Dvorah, it says that she goes to Barak ben Avinoam and says to him, Hashem commanded that you should go fight, to fight a war against the Naanim there. So again, it doesn't say, Vayomer Hashem el Dvorah, go tell Barak that he should go out to fight a war. It says that she received prophecy that he should go out and fight a war. So I can't think of any place where Hashem speaks directly to a woman, even in this last week's Parsha where Hashem is changing her name. And by Avram, he says it to him directly. By Sarah, he says it to Avram. He hears about it indirectly. Doesn't get a direct message from Hashem. So, so you're going in the direction I thought of. So that's why I brought this up, in order to, not in order to belittle the women, the opposite. I think it's, right? So Shem said that to her, right? Not Hashem directly. Right. Right there. And then he gets the message for her. So I think along the line that Tova just said now, we know from different sources, including Rav Kook, on the bracha of Birkas HaShachar Shasani Kirtzano, that women bless instead of men who say Lo Asani Isha. It also seems like a little bit neglectful towards the women. I was created by his will, according to his will. Sounds like no choice. What can I do? Whereas men can say Lo Asani Isha. Like they're proud that they're not a woman. But the Rav Kook says the exact opposite. Kook says Shasani Kirtzano, women were created by nature according to Hashem's will. meaning women's nature is to follow Hashem's will. Asani hirtzono. In nature, they follow Hashem. Whereas by men, that's why women are exempt from mitzvah shezman grama. The Abu Ram explains it's because she has to be always prepared and ready to service her husband. And if you would tell her, if she would have to fulfill mitzvah shezman grama, which are time-bound mitzvot, she then will have this tension between servicing her husband and fulfilling the mitzvah, because she doesn't have time for both at once, so they were exempt. That's maybe more an ancient reason for a system on grama. The more modern and deep concept and reason for that is because women don't need the mitzvah system on grama to get them connected to Hashem and connect them to holiness and connect them to spirituality. They're already connected by their essence, by their mere nature, that they breathe and emotionally connect to Hashem every moment naturally. They don't need reminders. Men need these reminders all the time. Put on tzitzis, put on tefillin, lulav, sukkah, do all these mitzvah daven 3 times a day, minyan. Men need all these reminders. They need all these connecting points so that they don't forget that Hashem is around and that they have to strive to become more spiritual. Women, by their nature, already have that in them. So, and by the way, also that's the reason why Tefilla is mainly built around women. We find that Hilchos Tefilla we learn from Chana and Neviah, and Brachos Lamed Aleph, all the halachos of Tefilla we learn from her. And altogether, women's prayers are usually considered a higher level and more sincere, more kavana and feeling. Tefillah is avodah shebalev. Is avodah shebalev is not tefillah. By women, we know that they're more nature is more based on emotion. The emotions of women are deeper and stronger than men. The tefillah, they're more connected to tefillah than men. Anyhow, so all this comes to say that when Hashem speaks to someone, so it's like when you have, someone gave me this parable, which is very good. It's like when you have a conversation with someone. So if you send them a message, WhatsApp or SMS or email, it's not at all like speaking to them directly face to face. They don't get the message with the same impact, the same strength as they would when you speak to them face to face. If a boss has to say something to one of his workers, and it's especially if it's negative, but also if it's positive, and he calls him for a meeting in the office and speaks to them directly, it's much more impactful than when he sends a message. So men need Hashem to speak to them directly in order to get that message through to them and to straighten them. When Hashem speaks to someone directly, that's it. He has to be very, very, very straight, very, very spiritual, very sincere with his whole life in order to listen to hear Hashem's voice. And Hashem's voice straightens the person immediately. He's speaking with the ultimate truth. Just by the mere fact that Hashem is speaking to someone makes him straight, makes him sincere, makes him real in what he stands for and believes in. So men need, again, this type of external reminder, and to speak to Hashem and especially speak to him directly in order to make him straighter and straighter and go online with Hashem and be connected and have a strong relationship with Hashem. Whereas women, it's enough for them to receive the messages by prophecy, by dreams, by in some sort of indirect way. That's enough for them. Is there any way straight and going along with Hashem as is by nature? So they just need to receive the message, but they're connected to Hashem. Their relationship with Hashem is strong and bonding without him having to speak to them directly. Yes, sure. Yes, sure.
He takes this whole thing where Hashem is telling Abraham, why, like rebuking Sarah. That's not what's happening. Hashem is rebuking Abraham. The fact that Sarah laughs means that she never knew that they were going to have a son. Hashem already told Abraham.
Right.
So the fact that she laughed meant that Abraham didn't have communication with Sarah. There was a problem in their marriage. He wasn't communicating. So when she left, he comes to yell at Abraham. Why is she laughing? She should have known. So this connects with what you're saying. Hashem's teaching Abraham, I'm not changing her name. You need to communicate with your wife. You're going to go face to face and start calling her Sarah.
So your fault. Okay.
It's a nice way that he's teaching him that lesson and saying, face to face, you will call her Sarah, not me.
But then the conversation continues and he says, Vayomer Elokim tzachakt. So what does that mean according to what she's saying now? According to what she's explaining, why then does he continue to blame her and say, Vayomer Elokim tzachakt? Yeah, that's a little bit pushing it a little bit far.
Sarah would have never left.
No, I understand. So the moment she did, he should have said, I'm sorry. Avraham, he shouldn't go at her again and again. He says to her, why did you laugh? And then she says, no, I didn't.
Just proving what we just said, that men need to be right. Doesn't go in instinctively. I'm saying, you called her Sarah, but you still didn't get that message. Like, how comes Abraham only notices she's beautiful after all these years when they go down to Egypt? He didn't know what his wife looked like. Oh, she's a beautiful woman. There wasn't that communication. You were both helping.
Okay, but
it's a different.
Yeah, it's
a
different
point of view. It's
right. Right. It's difficult for me to accept that point of view, but okay.
I didn't hear this. If you think about the whole thing with Kafachat and the whole concept, Abraham didn't get the whole thing that it was Yitzchak and not Ishmael either. It took him forever. We talk about it in so many different.
Yeah, but you can say there's one way to say that he didn't get things.
He had to have Sarah. Sarah had to throw Hagar out. He needed a lot of help to get the message to understand that it was not through Ishmael and it was through Yitzchak. It was certainly not easily understood by him, and that right. You would agree with.
You could say the same about Yitzchak and Esav. No, but I think the way, yeah. But just in a nutshell, the way you could also perceive all of this is the greatness of the Avos. It depends how we look at them. If you look at them, it's a very famous. That's true, but
you believe that because also with David and Mela.
No, of course. But I know, but when you make them at a level that's okay, this is a whole long discussion. Yeah, this is going to take us on a tangent. I think when you see Rashi and Chazal explaining the exact same issues differently, so I usually prefer to go by Rashi and Chazal and not by
we have to learn
people that.
Of course, you look at Rashi and Chazal, but every time we open the Torah, we have to take a lesson out. So you're learning how to have a better marriage from the parsha based on the lack of communication. So don't have it.
But I don't think
that doesn't belittle Avram. Doesn't belittle Sarah. With the Avos, that's beautiful.
I'm not sure it doesn't because you're saying something negative about their relationship, their marriage relationship, which we don't find in Chazal explaining the exact same story, the exact same situation.
It didn't mean that maybe the husband and wife were still always stand in the kitchen, like you said.
So that's not Avram and Sarah. That's what I'm saying. Avram and Sarah wasn't like those days. They were different in those days. Avram was a tremendous individual that loved every single creature in the world. So he didn't have a conversation with his wife.
No, he didn't love her. That was just a relationship.
Okay, whatever. We won't get into that. I'm not, okay. I'm usually not keen about such explanations. Right, it's a huge topic of discussion. How do we learn Tanakh? Right.
During those times, the woman was just secondary. It's a fact. So maybe they have to learn.
But I don't think the Avos and Imavos were alike in their days.
Women's ideas and minds are not secondary, even though maybe that's a teaching of Hashem, that the women's thoughts are not secondary, even though in society they are. Okay, so then something.
But Avram and Sarah lived according to what I'm explaining now, and not according to their time. They were people that were relevant to us exactly like they were then, and not because we're more. We're higher. We understand better than they. They were completely on the highest level possible of human beings. I'm not saying they had no flaws, but they were on the highest level possible of human beings because they created Am Yisrael and they're eternal. So to make this
okay, so that's the traditional hashkafic way of looking at it.
Right, how to learn Tanakh.
That's not
two hashkafas how you learn Tanakh, right? Okay, so there's this or that way. Okay, whatever. This is a real hashkafic issue. We won't get into this.
It's not a, maybe I can make myself clear.
I don't think it's not. It doesn't.
It's a huge topic. It's something that.
I'm going to listen to the share now.
Okay. Yeah, whatever, however you feel comfortable, that's how you learn. But I don't feel comfortable with such matters. Right. It's a way of the way Chazal see that the Avos and the way we see them from our small perspective. And Rav Kook is full of this type of discussions in his hashkafic teachings of how to look at the Avot and how to look at Chazal and how to totally not on our level at all, above and beyond. On their level, a very high level that they are, they did have flaws, but we can't explain them according to what we live, according to our life.
That's the whole point, to live the Torah, to look at each story. If you don't get something out of it,
Chazal are full of messages from learning Torah, full of messages from learning Torah, but not those type of messages.
You have to look at what was next. Like David HaMelech, the fact that he was able to say Chatati, that's the message we get.
When he says that, we get that message. But if he doesn't say that, that's why he said, why didn't Abraham say to Sarah, oh, sorry, I was so wrong for not telling you this. Instead, he's fighting back. Yitzchak had his, and Yaakov had his, and David had his. No, but I'm saying, Hashem says to Abraham, you were wrong for not telling Sarah if he didn't tell her. That's, again, something you assume that he didn't tell her. Well, let's say you assume that way, he didn't tell her. And Hashem tells him, your fault, it's your fault. Why didn't he just say, Sarah, I'm so sorry for not telling you? Instead, what does he do? He blames her. He continues on blaming her. Why did you laugh? So that's really making Abraham worthless, like nothing. Yeah, but you need to go on. But you have to, because you can't just stop the pasuk in the middle. You have to look at the entire psukim. He continues and says, according to what you said.
I don't think I said it like that. I said Hashem was disappointed. I never said it afterwards. I didn't see the.
No, I'm asking about the afterwards. According to this explanation.
That, I guess at that point he didn't learn. I never said Hashem. I never heard that.
But that's too much to say that Abraham receives a message from Hashem directly, and he says, "I'm still right. Hashem is wrong. Sarah is wrong. I'm still right." I
didn't give this year.
I understand. That's why I'm trying to show that this year, according to my understanding, is problematic because the message is not a true message to learn from this situation, this episode. Now, he's still, after hearing from Hashem that he was wrong for not telling her about him receiving this prophecy that she's going to have a child. Okay, now she says to him, she goes back and says, she doesn't say you didn't tell me, she said I didn't laugh. And he says to her, he's still blaming her. After hearing that he was wrong, he's still saying, no, I'm right. Hashem is wrong. Sarah is wrong. I'm right.
I think he's saying that Hashem said she laughed. And he said, no, you did laugh. That point, not you're wrong and we never talked. I should have told you.
But if that's the whole message of the issue here, that's what he should have said. He should have said, sorry, I was wrong. I didn't tell you. You laughed. But it wasn't your fault. He said so.
I hear what you're saying, but I don't think
it's hard for me to take that message. Yeah, I don't think it fits. But whatever. But the whole issue itself is how you learn Tanakh. That's a very, very big discussion. We'll go into it. Okay. Anyhow, just a few words. I thought this would take a few seconds, but it got on a tangent. Just a few words about Tefillah, just very, very shortly, because we want to go into Hilchos Brachos. About Tefillah, so we finished the first bracha, Magen Avraham. Second bracha, so I'll just say a very short point about the second bracha, and before we go into the actual words. And then we have a whole list of things. Mashiach Morid HaGeshem or Morid HaTal, Machagel Chaim V'Chesed, Machayim Mitim, and so on. So, as we said, the first bracha is mainly based on Avram and his tremendous attribute of Chesed. That's why the wording of the first bracha is mainly geared around Chasadim, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Leman Shmo Be'ava, Ozer, Moshiach, Magen, all is around Chesed. Yitzchak's great attribute was Gvura and Din. Yitzchak was a person who lived a strict life, very strict according to the pure halachic, and every move of his life was according to Hashem and very spiritual. He lived a life that was disconnected from humanity. He lived a life very connected to Hashem. One episode which proves this, I think, the most is something, again, people may not notice, and Chazal noticed this, that after the Akedah, Vayashov Avraham el Ne'arav, Vayakumu, Vayelchu yachdav al Be'er Sheva. Where's Yitzchak?
I'm not going to tell you that.
Okay, so, yeah. So I'll tell you what Chazal say there. Chazal say there. Chazal says something very simple. Yitzchak stayed on the mountain. It took him a while to come down from the mountain, not because Avram was much older. So it should have taken Yitzchak much quicker to come down the mountain. It's not the point that he couldn't make it down. He couldn't come down from the level he was at the Akedah. They reached the highest level human being can ever reach at the Akedah, those moments of the Akedah, and the strongest connection and love to Hashem and fulfilling commandments of Hashem. You can't go higher than that. A commandment that seems so cruel and yet go by it. That's a whole other discussion. Why were they commanded that? But to reach that point where you're completely nullified to Hashem, completely one with Hashem. You're not thinking of yourself at all. You erase all your emotions, all your thoughts, all your human thoughts and deeds and emotions, and you're completely connected. Now to come down from that, El Ne'arav, to come down from all that to simpletons, or even less than that, like Ishmael, depends who they were, Ishmael, Eliezer, or others, but very simple people, to come down. Avram Avinu was so humanly and so inclusive with his approach to humanity, to human beings, that he was able to take all that tremendous holiness that he was at and bring it down to the people. And Yitzchak was not that type of person. It doesn't say, we're not talking about worse or better. It's two different personalities. They're both perfectly fine. We see in the course of history that there were Gdolim who were very interconnected with their hilot and with society and with human beings. And there were Gdolim that stayed within 4 amos of learning Torah and praying and didn't interact with people so much. They weren't peoply individuals. They learned Torah only as if for themselves, but really their Torah was so great that it influenced thousands of people years ahead. Tens of thousands of years ahead. The Gra, the Chazon Ish, these were people that didn't interact with anyone. Yet we learn their teachings till this moment, and they have great influence over hundreds of thousands of people. So it's two different types of personalities. One isn't worse than the other, one isn't better than the other. So that's Yitzchak Avinu. Lived a life that's completely with Hashem and not so much mingling with human beings. So that's Gvura. It's also a very difficult life to live from the point of view of to be very strict with yourself, not go waste your time, so to speak. Again, for his personality, would be considered waste of time to mingle and interact with human beings. It's a very difficult life on one hand. But he was able to live such a strict life and be connected to Hashem every moment. And the Mesirut Nefesh that he taught us, to be completely Moser Nefesh to Hashem. You're completely connected to him and not involved in other things that distract you from being connected to Hashem totally, and you give up many sides of your characteristics of your life just to be with Hashem, just to be spiritual. So that Mesirut Nefesh was the ability of him to go up to the Akedah also. He was Moser Nefesh to Hashem. And from that, we take till today, all the generations down, the Jews were Moser Nefesh, gave up their lives for belief in Hashem. Literally, Moser Nefesh. All the pogroms and killings and Holocaust and all that, Jews kept many of them kept to the Judaism, kept to their religion, did not give up, and did not change their faith for anything else, and died for it. Where does that come from? Where is that? How is that so strong in our Jewish DNA? It comes from Yitzchak. All that comes from Yitzchak. He was Moser Nefesh, almost literally at Akedah, and actually his entire life. His Mesirut Nefesh to Hashem without being involved in anything else. And that's, by the way, also the ability of our children, our sons and daughters sometimes, who go to the army. And they're willing to fight wars for the sake of safety of the rest of the nation, willing to be Moser Nefesh. As v'chalila, I never know, but all that comes from Yitzchak. Our DNA was installed in us from Yitzchak Avinu. We're willing to be Moser Nefesh for the sake of doing what Hashem wants us to do. So that's a Tagibor Leolam Hashem. The Gvura of Hashem is mainly the attribute of Yitzchak, Gvura and Din. And that's why it says the only time in the entire Shmoneh Esrei, except for the very beginning of Hashem's but as we begin, Baruch Atah Hashem, all the names of Hashem in Shmoneh Esrei are Yud Kei Vav Kei, which is the merciful name of Hashem, except for this one, Atah Gibor Leolam Adnut, Aleph Dalet Nun Yud. The only time where it says it that way. The rest is Yud Kei Vav Kei. If you notice, some Sidurim don't show a difference. It's Yud Yud all the time. But if you have the Koran or Rinat Yisrael Sidurim, you'll see a difference. Yud Kei Vav Kei versus Aleph Dalet Nun Yud. The Aleph Dalet Nun Yud is more like Midas Adin. Adon HaKol is Adnut, and the master of all, which is the Midas Adin more. So it fits again, Yitzchak Avinu, that everything goes strictly according to Hashem's will. Okay, so we'll save that for next time. Why is that specifically related to Yitzchak? We hinted towards it, but we'll see. We'll see next time. Why is Tchias Meisi mainly based on Yitzchak? Okay, so we'll go for our brachos discussions, halachos. The next situations we'll be speaking about are the following. First of all, interestingly, wine and bread are treated similarly from the point of view of mistakes in brachos. What do I mean? Both wine and bread are foods that any bracha works for them, b'diavad. Of course, the proper bracha for wine is bar paragafim, but if by mistake someone says shehakol, it slips out of his mouth, and they don't correct within toch k'dei dibur, within a second and a half, they don't correct themselves. So shehakol, ha'etz, ha'adama, and mizonos, all four brachos work for wine, b'diavad, and work for bread, b'diavad, because he haven't lied. It's set for right. Ha'etz for bread. Wine is definitely from grapes. They grow from the ground, grow from a tree, and shehakol and mizonos. He said mizonos also covers all foods except for water and salt. Except for water and salt, mizonos covers everything else. By mistake, you said that. So that's true for wine, definitely, but not hamotzi lechem min haaretz. The only bracha that would not work for bread, by mistake you said hamotzi lechem min haaretz for wine, that's definitely wrong. Then even if you didn't correct yourself, you have to say a whole new bracha, the proper bracha for bread. Because it's definitely a lie. It's definitely wrong to say hamotzi lechem min haaretz on wine. Now, for bread, I thought it was true the opposite, that all brachas work except for borei pri hagafen, for bread. But does borei pri ha'etz work for bread? That should not really work because wheat doesn't grow on a tree. Yeah, he does say that. In the book he says, "V'chen belechem kol bracha shemachim alechem ogot v'chadom yotzim b'diavad chutz miborei pri hagafen." Here's the other way around. Any bracha you say over bread, it could be why even borei pri ha'etz. Oh, exactly. That's right. Maybe the answer is that in Gan Eden, one of the interpretations of what etz hadat was, it was wheat. That's why it says when a child the first time they eat the gan, they eat wheat, that's when they start becoming somewhat the age of chinuch in some way. You start beginning to, it's not chinuch, the age of 5 and 6, but you start teaching them Torah Tzivalanu Moshe. Like start teaching them something as they start eating wheat. That's what the Gemara says. So it gives them dat, sort of. So it shows that they're on the level of that in some way. Maybe that because of that, you don't say even by borei pri ha'etz for bread. Anyhow, this normally doesn't happen to us, but if it may by mistake slip from our mouth, that we said any bracha except for borei pri hagafen on bread and hamotzi lechem min haaretz on wine, all other brachos work for both of these. Okay, now more frequent situation. We know that when one drinks wine and says borei pri hagafen, any other beverage, they do not need to say a bracha. Wine covers all other drinks. No shehakol necessary for any other drink. But this isn't 100% true. There is an exception that la'alocha l'maaseh we do say that it's covered, but it's not so simple. The exception is freshly squeezed fruit juice. Not freshly, 100% squeezed fruit juice. The bracha there, we say shehakol. We say shehakol if it's squeezed and there's no pieces of fruit. It's not like a fruit salad with some juice in it. It's 100% squeezed fruit juice, so shehakol. Even if there's pulp, it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. It still remains shehakol. Even if there's pulp, it's not piece, not chunks. Only if there are chunks.
What about a shake that you try? There's a chance that there's still pieces.
Right. So if it's tiny,
it's meant to be not.
It's meant to be not, right? It's meant to be blended.
We just had this because my daughter just asked me and I said, make a egg. And then as she's drinking, there's like a chunk of mango. I said, okay, well,
you're right.
It's supposed to be there.
Then it's right. So wait, you said make ha'etz or you said make shehakol?
I said make shehakol.
Oh, shehakol, yeah, okay.
But then there was a chunk of mango and I said, oh.
Right.
Well,
so if it's small.
Make a ha'etz on that piece of mango instead of.
No, then the entire drink is ha'etz. The moment there's a chunk in there, that's.
No, but she already said chocolate. And then she's drinking it and there's a piece of mango.
Right, okay. But the moment it didn't mix, wasn't blended totally.
Should now still have it or now make cakes on that chunk?
After she.
And had kavana for the whole drink.
No, so then it's covered. It's covered because b'diavad shehakol even covers a mango. If you said shehakol over a mango, you didn't know better. You said shehakol, you can eat the whole mango now. Even if someone tells you you were wrong, you should have said ha'etz. In the middle of the mango, you don't switch. You remain with the shehakol. Although Moshe Feinstein says not to say ha'etz now, that's definitely not right. That's incorrect because he said shehakol and it covers. But Moshe Feinstein says better stop eating because you're eating the rest of it. You're eating the rest of it based on shehakol, which isn't the real proper bracha. Yotze b'diavad on what you've eaten. But now that you know better, someone told you, no, this is ha'etz. The Moshe says, midat chasidut. It's not that you have to, but if you're extra righteous, then how can you eat something?
This isn't the same situation. This isn't no better. This isn't. You knew
Right, the situation. You know about what the situation was, right? You made a mistake.
You didn't know what the bracha is. This was you thought your blender did a better job than
Right. So again, shehakol definitely covers, including that piece of mango that was there. It's covered by shakol. You should not say very prayers. But to begin with, had you known that there was a chunk of mango there, I'm talking about something that's distinguishable well. It's not small pieces in there. Even if you chew them as you're drinking, you feel you have to chew a little bit, but it's not distinguishable what fruit or where it's coming from, that small piece, then it's not considered. Again. No. If you have a chunk in there, it's only hates. The entire thing becomes hates.
Even if you're just taking the shahako.
If you don't know, what?
You're gonna drink half of it.
If you knew in advance, you wouldn't know.
If you knew in advance it has a chunk, then the whole thing is hates. So you have to try in your bowl or cup or whatever you're eating it in. You have to try to stir it with your spoon. Yeah. No, then you have pieces.
But when you make food, and you blend the soup to be a vegetable soup.
Right. Exactly.
You take soup and you blend it.
Right.
And when you're eating, one person gets the one piece that didn't get blended well.
Right.
Everyone else has made a shot.
Right.
So that's the question.
So it's an individual. Exactly. It's individual.
No, you don't say there.
So you should try to stir with the spoon before and see. No, just to check, not to blend it again. To check if you have a piece there.
You check. You think it's good. I make a soup that feeds 20 people.
No, you check fine.
I'm not. I check and I'll blend it all.
Right.
I keep blending until I think it's blended.
Right. So fine. So you think it's blended. Now you serve it.
Friday night, let's say, I know we watch. So
but
you're serving it.
During the week, you have just a
soup.
soup.
You're eating, and you're like, oh, I have a little carrot in mine. It didn't blend.
Right.
It's Friday night, don't worry.
I said.
Yeah, right. In the modes, you're right. But during the week, if you're having soup, right. So I'm saying each and every individual in their bowl should check their soup.
No, it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
But I have a question. So first of all, Rav Moshe's thing is different because you didn't make the wrong bracha. You made the bracha, you know the halachas, just turned out that in your closed cup, like not even, you couldn't see it, right?
Uh-huh.
It's with a straw, so you didn't make the wrong bracha. Would he still say to stop because circumstances turned out that you were wrong? It's not the same case.
Can you grab an apple?
Right.
I feel like in his case, you're a little bit.
That's definitely true. Yes, that's always true. You can grab an apple and say I ate just in order to cover that. That's always true. I wouldn't go to that extreme of promotion in general. I don't know if on that level to stop eating because the bracha is diavad.
If you're sitting in Rivki's chance, in Rivki's situation,
yeah.
So there's one piece of chunk. So you're saying the proper bracha for the whole soup is now ha'etz.
Ha'adama.
Depends what.
Yeah, what soup? But usually soups are.
Okay, fine, ha'adama. But let's say
strawberry is also ha'adama.
Well, no, I know. So
Yeah.
Ha'adama. But it would be incorrect to take that one piece, eat it, make an eighth, and then have the soup with the shop.
Right. That would not be the right thing. You don't,
even though that's not
because it all comes from. It's all coming from vegetables. Vegetable soup all comes from vegetables. So if it's totally blended, so you don't see the appearance is no longer of a vegetable, so it becomes shackle. But if you do see one of the vegetables there, see it very distinctly as a chunk, then the entire soup becomes now adam. We did this as we were learning about soups way back, but it's very confusing, I know. Right. Yeah, on top?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Right. And then a shackle. That's two separate, right?
Cones are not those cheap cones that are like part of the.
Yeah.
It's not like a cornetto.
Yeah, put that ice cream has cookies.
But you don't go, who wants cones?
I obviously
wants ice cream.
Right.
So obviously, ice cream.
I actually like the cone.
No, but I thought when we learned it, if
Doesn't make sense.
I thought when we learned it, if the cone was distinctive and separate,
You say no, two separate brachos there.
then you say two separate brothers. Only
No matter if your main
only
point
if
is the
it's like
mizonos.
a cheap cornetto where the cone is falling apart and it's really just old ice cream.
Right.
They all make it
When it's tasteless. When it's a tasteless.
Not cornetto. No, I like cornetto. I said a cheap version of cornetto. Yeah, I like cornetto.
Yeah, those very simple ones that have no flavor in them. They're just to hold the ice cream. Those you don't say mizonos. But otherwise, you say mizonos. Even if your main objective is to eat the ice cream, but it's two separate entities. No, so you first say shehakol. So you can say shehakol first. And then when you get down to the cone, then you say mizonos. Correct. Correct. Yeah, they have that on top. So that only allows you to say the bracha in the proper sequence. Okay.
Pretzels, that's their most famous flavor, with the pretzels.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, they have bagel and lavan. That's like their most popular flavor.
Uh-huh.
It's a bracha test. You ever taught a class?
Yeah, right.
That's what the goal is, and see what
Let's see how we're all
But
on.
there, even if you don't see a piece of the pretzel, you still make a mazono if you know there's pretzel.
Right, right.
Mazonos.
Because we said mizonos that's completely mixed in with everything, makes the whole thing mizonos. Right.
Some are not in Ranana.
It's all over the place, right?
Not in
Even when you
Ranana.
make it
Okay.
In Manila.
Even what?
When you make it to the
Maybe not
milkshake,
Manila, but
the milkshake,
Milkshake, yeah.
still pieces of pretzel that get stuck.
Right. If it needs some chewing, then it's mizonos. If it's completely liquid, it's blended totally, then it's shehakol. Right.
Remember, our big problem was the
So the whole thing is mizonos, right?
luckily we don't have them here.
Uh-huh. Okay, let's continue. So the 100% squeezed fruit juice, we say is shehakol. If it's with a chunk, then it's a 8, and it definitely doesn't get covered by wine. We're talking about, again, a person who has wine, who's very pregafen, and now wants to have the 100% squeezed fruit juice. That's namely shehakol, which should be covered by the wine. It's a beverage, it's a drink, and we say wine covers all drinks. But here we have an issue because the Rashba holds that even if there are no chunks, it's completely blended, or it's completely liquid, it's still a 8. We don't hold that way. We say shehakol, but there's an opinion of the Rashba that since it came from the fruit itself, then it deserves a 8 no matter what, even if it's totally blended. And if it's a 8 and it's no longer covered by the wine, because wine only covers a drink that's shehakol, that's less important than borei pregafen. But an 8 is definitely a separate bracha that you should make, even if you had wine. Like a person who has wine and then has an apple. Of course, you should say 8. Wine doesn't cover apples. Wine only covers drinks that are shehakol. The moment that the Rashba holds it as an 8, it's not covered by the wine. According to the Rashba, you would still need to say a separate blessing over your 100% squeezed fruit juice. So even though we say, you say we're pregafen first over wine, according to the Rashba, you should still be blessing over the fruit juice. But we hold that it's shehakol. So according to we hold, it should be covered by the wine. But again, to be extra stringent because of this opinion of the Rashba that maybe it's not covered by the wine. If you don't think of anything, you just drink the two of them, don't say a bracha. That's fine. You don't say a bracha because we hold, unlike the Rashba, we hold it shehakol, it's covered by the wine. So if you're just drinking leisurely, don't say shehakol. But if you know you're going to have a 100% squeezed fruit juice after drinking wine, better yet, if you have in mind before you say the bracha over the wine, borei pregafen, have in mind not to cover the fruit juice. And you're able to do such a thing. You're able to say, my bracha is now going to cover just this food and not this one. Now, although we normally don't do that because it's a bracha she'eina tzricha, we normally prefer that if a bracha does cover something else, we don't just make extra brachos. But in this case, since according to the Rashba, we should be saying a bracha over this squeezed fruit juice because it should be an 8. But we don't hold that way. We say shehakol. But in order to be extra careful with the Rashba's opinion, we prefer that you don't cover the juice by the wine. And you have in mind, and since it's a suffix situation, you're allowed to do that. In this case, you're allowed to cause like an extra bracha. It's not, you're not doing something incorrect because the Rashba would say you need an extra bracha.
You don't have to make the first and then make another bracha?
No, you could just say, my borei pri agafen is only for the wine and is not meant to cover the fruit juice as well. And then you say a shehakol, even though we say shehakol in the end. You say a separate shehakol because... Right, I agree that it's something very awkward here, very awkward.
Only with this?
It's with this and the water of kompot, the water of the cooked fruits. If you cook fruits, that's kompot. If you cook fruits. Jelly or jam, which is completely crushed and not visible.
I'm not even drinking the water. Even if I do have some food or jam, I'm not drinking the
Why?
water.
Like my mother-in-law cooks plums, and the juice is great.
Right, just as a juice. Right. So we say again, on that juice. Yeah, that's what we mean. Any cooked fruit. That's what we're talking about. Cooked fruit, that the water of it gets the taste, the flavor of the fruit. If you just drink the water, again, we hold it's shehakol. Just the water itself, we hold the shehakol. But the Rosh holds in this case that it's ha'etz, because it got all its flavor from the fruit. So again, we're in the same situation that according to the Rosh, this water, this liquid is not covered by the wine. So we should again have in mind not to include the kompot juice in the borei pri agafen and say a separate shehakol. But again, all this is like being extra careful. It's definitely okay if we just rely on the borei pri agafen and all drinks that we drink, including the fruit juice or the kompot juice, they're all included in borei pri agafen, and we do not say a separate shehakol over any other beverage that we're drinking. But now we'll get to one last discussion about this issue, and that is what happens, and this could very, very often happen. What happens if you drank a cup of water before you had the wine? Drank a cup of water, you said shehakol niyah b'dvaro, and you drank the cup of water. Now you want to have wine. You want to drink some wine as well. That could happen in a restaurant. If you're not washing and then saying Birkat Hamazon. You're not washing, it can happen in a restaurant where, but then anyhow, we're talking about just about drink. Because anyhow, if you have other foods that are shehakol ha'etz ha'adam or whatever, so you're saying the first bracha and last bracha over those foods. But if you're just there for a drink, and you have first a glass of water, and then wine, so obviously you said shehakol correct, rightfully, because you didn't have wine yet. And then you say borei pri agafen rightfully, because that's the bracha that you deserve to say over wine. But then the last bracha, what do we do? Because normally, if we had the wine first and then all other drinks, same as for the first bracha, the wine covers all other drinks. So for the last bracha also, ala gefen pri agafen covers the borei nefashos. You don't need to say a separate borei nefashos over the drinks that you had after having wine, because same as the wine covered the first bracha, it covers the last bracha for you. But in this case, you had said the first bracha of shehakol, because you had the water before you had the wine. And then you drank the wine, and now you have to say last bracha. Do you say separately borei nefashos and ala gefen pri agafen, one over the water, one over the wine? Or is the after bracha inclusive of all that you drank before? Because after all, now you've finished drinking all the types of drinks, and now you're just going to say one last bracha over the whole thing. That's a discussion. So here, some poskim hold this way, some poskim hold that way. The Mishnah Berurah sides more by the opinion that you do not need to say a separate after bracha over the water, because after all, you're going to say alagefen priya gefen, that will include all the drunken before, even though you didn't say the first bracha, even though you didn't include the first bracha within the wine. Whereas other poskim, the Shulchan Aruch Harav and Aruch HaShulchan, other poskim will hold no. You need to say, sorry, the opposite. Sorry, I said the opposite way. The Mishnah Berurah is the one that says that you need to say two separate, the Mishnah Berurah is the one that says you need to say two separate brachos after brachos, because you hadn't included the water and the wine firstly, so you don't include it lastly either. So two separate brachos. Yes, better. You're right. Better to do it that way. Bari nefashos first, in order not to go. Okay, goodbye. Take care. Not to have included it, right? A mistake. Whereas other poskim. Okay, but the other poskim hold that no, the after bracha does include the alagefen, does include the water, even though you said it's first bracha separately, because then you drank it before. Now that you've drunken everything, the last bracha includes all. So there are two different opinions on this. It depends if we consider the idea that all drinks are nullified to wine. Do we consider them nullified to the wine per se, or to the bracha? Is it considered nullified to the borei priya gafen and the alagefen priya gefen? As an after bracha, the borei nefashos is nullified to the bracha, or is nullified to the wine? Is the water unimportant because he had wine, or is the bracha of the water unimportant because he said the bracha over the wine? What's the ikar v'tafel here? So if it's the actual drink that's unimportant because you had the drink of wine, so saying the after bracha, when to begin with you hadn't had it after the wine, you had it before the wine, so that won't serve for the water, because in this case the drink itself wasn't nullified to the wine because it was drunken before. You need to say a separate bracha. But if we say that the bracha includes everything, so the moment you say the alagefen priya gefen, the borei nefashos is nullified to the alagefen, so you don't need to say borei nefashos. That's the difference of opinions. Just one second. So the final halacha would be what? After you have this dispute, if you had the water before the wine, do you say borei nefashos separately or not? Final halacha would be not to, because safek brachos lehakim. Even though the Mishnah Berurah sides more to the opinion that you do have to say borei nefashos and alagefen as you drink, because you drank the water before the wine. But since there are opinions that say not to, and there's another Mishnah Berurah that you can maybe hear from it that he also holds that way. Any case, if you're in this situation, don't say the borei nefashos. Better yet, if you do what Tova said before, just take a food that is definitely borei nefashos. Just eat a food that's definitely borei nefashos, and then you're definitely covering the water that you drank before the wine, because you're saying borei nefashos over the food that is definitely not included in the wine. That's a solution to get away from this problem. This may happen more frequently, that drink before any other drink before you drink the wine. How do we solve the after bracha for all this? So he said, finally, only alagefen or priya gefen, but better yet, if you eat a food that's a borei nefashos food, and then you say borei nefashos over that food, and then you cover the water. If you had also true, right? No, but then that doesn't matter.
It should matter.
Because
you're going to say you're relying on the X, but then you don't.
No, on borei priya gefen, you're relying on borei priya gefen. Yeah, right. So that's fine.
No, because then you're taking it out. You know you're having fun. Why is it better?
If you can have more borei nefashos, then it could be a bracha shenetzricha. But if you just
why is it better to make the extra bracha there? Because what about making the extra bracha at the end and just make it at the end? Just say
no, because at the end, again, if you had only drink, we're talking about not foods. You had foods, and obviously they said to say borei nefashos in the end. There's no question. You had only drinks. but you started with the water and then went to the wine, the after bracha is questionable. We don't know what to do. So
you. Why it's less of a question if you make the extra at the end, or if you made it.
No, because at the end, it could be that you're doing the wrong thing. Because if you're going to say ala gefen or gefen. No, that you can't do. That you can't do. If it doesn't. No, but if you're saying it after drinking the water separately, then there's no problem.
You made a bracha on the water, knowing that you're drinking water.
And then wine.
And now you're saying, I'm ending this part of this water, but now my other water is falling under a different. It doesn't.
If you're having a meal, then
it doesn't make. It's not
right. No, if you're having a meal, then you don't need to do all this.
Yes, you're having drinks, and you're going to keep having water in between your wine.
Yeah, so it's only wine, no foods. So then, no foods, right? Right. But yeah, but that could be a solution. Okay. Okay, yeah. One last question. Okay, so we'll stop at this.
I wasn't at home. I was somewhere else, and I started to get a migraine, which happens to me sometimes. And I know that sometimes it could be helpful if I take a drink of soda, but they weren't making kiddush yet. So I never drink before kiddush, but I did.
Right.
Then I didn't know what to do about the bracha from that. I don't know.
No, if you drank.
I guess I should have definitely said it
right.
I guess maybe it was because they were starting to say kiddush, like it wasn't in my hand. So I was being yotze the kiddush.
So that's exactly the situation. You had to drink of soda right before kiddush.
Yeah.
No, so it's the exact same situation. Exact same situation.
I would have assumed I make a bracha, but I didn't have time to anyway.
Right. So, okay, no, you could have made the bracha chrona. You could have said that.
Or
as long as you drank this soda within 3 sips, the revis within 3 sips. Sometimes you sip slowly, the soda goes slowly, but if you were very thirsty, okay? So you sipped it down. So you could have made the bracha chrona before hearing kiddush. That's definitely fine. If you didn't, then, now it depends. If you didn't drink from the wine itself, you just heard kiddush, you definitely need to say Borei Nefashos. Doesn't matter that you heard Borei Pri Hagafen. Washing with bread and everything?
Friday night.
Oh, Friday night. Sorry, you're talking about the morning. Sorry. No, so then for sure. No, so yeah, you could make the Borei Nefashos right away. That solves all.
I know, but now it's so complicated.
Right. Okay. Okay. So now this is a very interesting question. I was going to get to this next week. This is very, very common. Eating anything, drinking, eating any types of foods, any types of foods before washing for bread, and not saying the bracha chrona over the foods you ate before washing, and then saying birkas hamazon in the end. Because birkas hamazon including with kiddush, doesn't matter. Kiddush, washing. No, the wine of the kiddush is considered part of the meal, so that's definitely covered by birkas hamazon. Yeah, that's covered definitely. But anything you ate before kiddush or drank before kiddush, or if it's not Friday night, you're not supposed to eat or drink anything before kiddush. Right. But any food you eat before washing for bread on a regular weekday, you're about to have lunch, wash, and you want to wash and eat some bread, and you had some food before. You had a piece of cake before, you had a fruit before, you drank water before, and now you want to go wash. This can happen very frequently. You want to go wash after you ate something other than the bread. Does the birkas hamazon over the bread cover all that you ate before washing the bread? So that's a whole issue that we have to discuss. That's going to be next week. It's very interesting. What gets covered and what doesn't? We'll do that next week. Just to tell you in a nutshell. Correct. Correct. There you say Borei Nefashos. Right, but I'll tell you. Yeah, but we'll learn next week whether it's really covered or not. Okay, take care. I'll just say goodbye to everyone. Shavua tov, everyone. Take care.
Thank you very much, Rav Steinberg. Thank you.
Okay, very welcome. Very welcome. Call to.